late in 2016, well after it had been used, it was still unverified, and the people responsible for it were referring to it as unverified, and one or the other demanded that it be included in the intelligence assessment, which then leaked, which then prompted the discussion you and I are having now.
But in a statement to Fox News, a former CIA official put the blame squarely on Comey. Quote, former Director Brennan, along with former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, are the ones who opposed James Comey's recommendation that the Steele dossier be included in the intelligence report, the official said, adding that it was Comey's decision to brief the president-elect on the unverified dossier. After multiple requests, Comey's lawyer did not provide any comment to Fox News.
This is BCP Jr. Welcome to our Patriot family. Please like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell so you don't miss a thing.
And now a high-level dispute over which senior government officials pushed the unverified Steele dossier as part of the 2017 intelligence assessment into Russian election meddling. Sources familiar with the matter tell Fox News that a late 2016 email chain indicated that then FBI Director James Comey told bureau subordinates that then CIA Director John Brennan insisted the dossier be included in the intelligence community assessment on Russian election interference, known as the ICA.
Good evening, my fellow patriots. Welcome to Real Patriot News. I am your host, BCP. This is getting really, really good. I mean, you've got James Comey and Brennan starting to turn on each other, and one blaming the other for being the person behind pushing the false, fake, unverified dossier as part of the intelligence community assessment, bringing it in as part of the intelligence briefings for both Obama and President-elect Donald Trump.
John Brennan was confirmed to be the next head of the CIA. Reignited debate, of course, about the use of drones.
3 months after 42 civilians died, John Brennan stood up and said,
there hasn't been a single collateral death.
Based on what Director Brennan has informed us, I have grave concerns that the CIA's search may well have violated Executive Order 12333, which prohibits the CIA from conducting domestic searches or surveillance.
As far as the allegations of CIA hacking into Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we wouldn't do that.
But you're living in a world of make-believe, with flowers and bells and leprechauns and magic frogs with funny little hats.
If I did something wrong, I will go to the president, and he is the one who can ask me to stay or to go.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with Rob Placone. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy.
So, and we've also talked about the influence of the CIA in our media, the Church Report with commission, which was in the 70s, the late 70s, and talked about how the CIA had infiltrated newsrooms and of newspapers and magazines, and it was unbelievable, right?
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks? This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Right, and so here we are again. We showed you before MSNBC's intelligence reporter is CIA. We showed you that before.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he now works for MSNBC. He was part of that incorrectly reported story. The latest incorrect Trump-Russia collusion reported story that they all got wrong somehow the same way. Somehow they all got it wrong the same way. CBS, NBC, MSNBC. So there he is. So we showed you that. So it's still happening today. And now, guess what? Former CIA Director John Brennan is now the Senior National Security and Intelligence Analyst for NBC News and MSNBC.
I mean, then you got Trey Gowdy just dropping nuggets like crazy.
And when the name Sidney Blumenthal is included as part of your corroboration, and you're the world's leading law enforcement agency, you have a problem.
As a Fox News contributor, first, a few days ago, he talks about this email telling John Durham to look at this email in December of 2016. Watch last night's video I made if you haven't. We investigators are going and looking at Brennan and 2016. And then yesterday he kind of expounded on that, and I'm going to show those clips so we can look at it and analyze them together. But then he drops this out of nowhere news. I never heard of it. I investigated it. He drops that former Clinton aide, Sidney Blumenthal, a total Clinton hack, was one of the people that the FBI used to corroborate the fake dossier. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're a FISA court judge and you see a Clinton crony as one of the corroborating people for a dossier, wouldn't that kind of like send off a couple red flags that this possibly could be opposition research based? I mean, I don't know. But it's something to think about. I mean, that would be a huge red flag if you have a total Clinton hack being given as reason in a FISA court as to why this dossier is legitimate.
State Department. He didn't work for the U.S. government at all. He wanted to work for the State Department, but the White House said no to him. Do you recall who specifically at the White House rejected Sidney Blumenthal?
No, I do not.
After he was turned down for a job at the State Department by the White House, he went to work where?
I think he had a number of consulting contracts with different entities.
Well, if he had a number of them, do you recall any of them?
I know that he did some work for my husband.
Well, he worked for the Clinton Foundation.
That's correct.
Okay. He worked for Media Matters.
I'm sure he did.
He worked for Correct the Record.
I'm sure he did.
When you were asked about Sidney Blumenthal, you said he was an old friend who sent you unsolicited emails, which you passed on in some instances because you wanted to hear from people outside what you called the bubble. We will ignore for a second whether or not Sidney Blumenthal is outside the bubble, but I do want to ask you about a couple of those other comments, because what you left out was that he was an old friend who knew absolutely nothing about Libya, was critical of President Obama and others that you work with, loved to send you political and image advice, had business interests in Libya, which he not only alerted you to, but solicited your help for. And you often forwarded his emails, but usually only after you redacted out any identifiers so nobody knew where the information was coming from. What does the word unsolicited mean to you?
It means that I did not ask him to send me the information that he sent me, and as I have previously stated, some of it I found interesting, some of it I did not, some of it I forwarded, some of it I did not. I did not know anything about any business interests. I thought that, just as I said previously, newspaper articles, journalists, of which he is one, a former journalist, had some interesting insights, and so we took them on board and evaluated them, and some were helpful and others were not.
We're going to get to all the points you just made, but I want to start with your public comment that these emails were unsolicited. You wrote to him, "Another keeper, thanks and please keep them coming. Greetings from Kabul and thanks for keeping this stuff coming. Any other info about it? Question mark. What are you hearing now? Question mark. Got it. We'll follow up tomorrow. Anything else to convey? Question mark." Now that one is interesting because that was the very email where Mr. Blumenthal was asking you to intervene on behalf of a business deal that he was pursuing in Libya. What did you mean by what are you hearing now?
I have no idea, Congressman. They started out unsolicited, and as I said, some were of interest. I passed them on, and some were not. And so he continued to provide me information that was made available to him.
I don't want to parse words, and I don't want to be hyper-technical, because it's not a huge point, but it is an important point. You didn't say they started off unsolicited. You said they were. You said they were unsolicited.
Well, they were unsolicited, but obviously I did respond to some of them.
Well,
and I'm sure that encouraged him.
Anything else to convey? What are you hearing now? I'm going to Paris tomorrow night. We'll meet with TNC leaders, so this and additional info useful. Still don't have electricity or BlackBerry coverage post-Irene, so I've had to resort to my new iPad. Let me know if you received this. We'll talk about the new iPad in a little bit. Here's another one. This report is in part a response to your questions. That's an email from him to you. This report is in part a response to your questions. There'll be further information in the next day. If you're the one asking him for information, how does that square with the definition of unsolicited?
I said it began that way, Mr. Chairman, and I will add that both Chris Stevens and Gene Kretz found some of the information interesting, far more than I could, because they knew some of the characters who were being mentioned, and they were the ones, the kind of persons with the expertise that I asked to evaluate to see whether there was any useful information.
We're going to get to that in a second. Now, before you give Mr. Blumenthal too much credit, you agree he didn't write a single one of those cables or memos he sent you.
I'm sorry, what?
He didn't write a single one of those cables or memos.
I don't know who wrote them. He's the one who sent them to me.
Would you be surprised to know not a single one of those was from him?
I don't know where he got the information that he was sending to me.
Did you ask? You're sending me very specific, detailed intelligence. What is your source? That seems to me like a pretty good question.
I did learn later that he was talking to or sharing information from former American intelligence officials.
By the name of? Who wrote those cables?
I don't recall. I don't know, Mr. Chairman.
It would at least open up a can of worms and question that. So, folks, I don't usually give... this is a joke, folks. This is a joke for those that are going to take this serious. This is just a joke I'm about to say. But if I were to give investment advice, you might want to consider buying Conagra Foods. They are the owners of Orville Redenbacher, because, baby, it is serious popcorn time.